The days get shorter, the cold moves in. Winter weather impacts your homes, kids' school, and especially your drive to work. That's why KSHB 41 News is getting you ready for winter for what you'll see outside. Safely dressing your kids and pets, handling the road, to figuring out which ice melt you may need. We are working to make sure you are prepared. The seasons are changing and winter is about to begin. So KSHB 41 is getting you ready for winter. I'm meteorologist Gary Lezak. And on top of all that, this will be my final time preparing you for the winter after more than 20 years at KSHB 41. So let's get right to it. In the past few decades, the science of weather prediction has been advancing. So let's take a look at the LRC and the other ingredients that go into winter weather forecasting. Weather forecasting has gotten a major boost in the past 2 decades. It used to be thought that there was a 15-day limit to weather forecasting accuracy. There's an evolving technology that allows us to predict weather disasters up to almost a year in advance now. Major hurricane disaster Ian was predicted 6 months before it destroyed parts of Florida last September. 56 people were killed when a powerful EF4 tornado hit Mayfield, Kentucky on December 10, 2021. 4 months later, Mayfield, Kentucky was hit again by another tornado, fortunately weaker, and we predicted this April severe weather outbreak with 4 months' time to prepare. Our weather team predicted last year's snowfall for the 2021-2022 season almost perfectly. And 2 years ago, our 15.5 inches of snow was exactly right when 15.5 inches fell. These impacting disasters, snow predictions, floods, droughts, heat waves, Arctic blasts, and more are being predicted by using the LRC methodology and technology with increasing success. In fact, 90% of all the weather disasters around the world are predictable using the LRC. There is order in what many believe is just chaos in the river of air flowing above us. The LRC allows us to know when and where severe weather will strike, to know when and where hurricanes will make landfall, to know when, where, and how many winter storms will likely strike. There is a river of air above us with waves that are cycling regularly. Just like these waves in this pond, the waves in the atmosphere are predictable. Predictable by weather forecasters that understand this evolving method. The science behind winter weather prediction is a big atmospheric puzzle. We have cracked the code with the LRC as the centerpiece. The El Niño Southern Oscillation Index, ENSO, is one of the impacting influences on the LRC. We are moving into our third La Niña in a row, only the 4th time this has happened since records began. La Niña is the cooling of the tropical Pacific Ocean, and La Niña tends to shift rain and snow patterns east and southeast of Kansas City. La Niña will be weakening as we move into next year. 2 more influences are the Arctic Oscillation, or AO, and the North Atlantic Oscillation, or NAO. When these indexes dip deep, negative Arctic air is more likely to blast south into the United States and energize storm systems. When they move into the positive phase, it is more likely to be warmer than average. What is going to happen this winter, next spring, and next summer? The answers are right in front of us through the LRC. So how much snow is going to fall this winter? We'll let you know here in a few minutes, but I want to bring in Lindsay Anderson here because precipitation type forecasting is very challenging.
It seems to be a big one here in Kansas City. We get all types: rain, freezing rain, sleet, and snow. It all depends on the temperature at the ground, but also in the atmosphere above us. So let's break it down. Rain happens when temperatures are above 32 degrees from the ground and into the atmosphere. Freezing rain, however, requires the surface temperature to be below 32 degrees. This means objects like trees, street signs, light posts, all will accumulate ice really quickly, and untreated roads tend to be very slick quick. Next up, we have sleet. Now, sleet is very interesting as it requires a shallow, warm layer to melt the snowflakes just enough to rime with water. As the melted snowflake enters the air below 32 degrees, the water around it will freeze into an ice pellet, therefore bouncing off the ground. And finally, snow. Snow requires it to be below 32 degrees from the ground all the way to the cloud. And with all these different types of precipitation, drivers tend to notice the biggest impact.
Meteorologist Jeff Penner will show us how road crews tackle these issues.
When that snow, sleet, and freezing rain start to fall this winter, these roads can turn from good to bad in a hurry. Road crews ask that you initially stay off the road so they can salt and treat and clear the roads as fast as possible. But sometimes you can't help it, and you have to go. So be sure to stay at least 4 car lengths behind a snowplow. That keeps the plow drivers safe from wrecks and drivers enough time and space to brake. Also, it keeps drivers from getting their sight blocked by clouds or mist of snow coming from the plows. Avoid passing plows because drivers are focused on clearing roads and they may not see you. And remember, the most dangerous time to drive is when the temperature is around 32 degrees. Because you could have a mixture of snow, ice, and slush. So what if you do wreck or slide off the road? Well, we want you to be prepared. So keep a flashlight, batteries, first aid kit, extra water, and maybe medication in your car. Also, a blanket or 2, extra gloves, and rain gear in case you're stuck for a while. Finally, you might want to have some jumper cables, kitty litter, sand, or rock salt to increase the traction. Guys?
That's right, Jeff. It can get real tricky on the roads during the winter.
Yeah, and Jeff mentioned the salt. Well, Wes Peary took a trip to a lab to really get a deep understanding of how salt works to get rid of the snow and ice on the roads.
All right, I'm here with lead salt scientist Jeff Brown with Compass Minerals. And Jeff, I love doing science experiments. I love seeing all these different bottles we have showed up here. So what do we have set up on all these tables?
What we're talking about is safety. So we add de-icers, or we use de-icers or anti-icers so that people don't slip and slide when they walk on their driveways, or they don't slip and slide or have accidents when they're driving. So I'm going to start off with the tried and true rock salt. That is the #1 de-icer, whether we're talking about a parking lot, interstate, side streets, or driveways. It's cheap. It's very effective, and it's readily available. Downside of it, it works great, but once you get to about 5 degrees Fahrenheit, it's not going to work. And actually, as you approach 5 degrees, it gets less and less effective. And that's when we look to other de-icers that are much more effective at lower temperatures.
All right, what other nice chemical combinations do we have here?
Magnesium chloride hexahydrate, really, really great de-icer. This will melt down to -15. So again, rock salt down to 5, we can go below 0 with magnesium chloride hexahydrate. You know, again, we've all seen it. It's cold. We've seen the truck spread salt. We know it's there, but it's below 5, and there's just no melt. So we know that there's this tremendous amount of de-icing potential still on the road, but it's too cold for it to work. Magnesium chloride gets around that because it lowers the melting point of, lowers the freezing point, of water even lower than rock salt. Calcium chloride, this will actually melt down to -25, so it's a little bit better. Plus it has a different, let's call it a different benefit relative to the other de-icers, and I'd like to demonstrate that right now if I can.
Yeah, would love to see that.
Right. So that benefit basically, you know, in chemistry there's terms that we use, endothermic and exothermic. So if I put something into water and it generates heat, we call that exothermic. When we add calcium chloride to water, that's an exothermic reaction. It generates heat. So imagine you put that on your ice. You're not only getting great melting performance, you're also getting an extra boost just from that heat. So what we're going to do, and Wes, I'm going to let you do this experiment. If you take the gun and measure the temperature of the water.
68 degrees.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, and I'm going to pour just a little bit of calcium chloride in. And tell me what you see.
We're up to 69 already. Up to 70 degrees. So it's just going to keep on going.
It's going to keep going. No, I didn't add enough for it to boil or to get really hot. If I added a lot, it would be really, really, really hot. What temperature are you?
71.
Okay, so
72 now.
Let's do this. Feel that?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, noticeably warmer.
So that's the benefit that you get from calcium chloride that you won't get from the other deicers. That exothermic reaction that generates heat.
All right, this is what we came here for, to do some awesome science experiments. So what do we got going on?
All right, great. We've got ice, and we've got the deicers that we talked about, and all that I'm going to do is sprinkle some of each of these onto the ice in these trays, and we're going to put them into the freezer, which is set to about, I'll put it in Fahrenheit, about 7 or 8 below, and then we're just going to wait, and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
So let's start with rock salt. We'll just pour a little. There's our magnesium chloride. This is our blend of magnesium chloride and rock salt. And finally, calcium chloride. We'll put this in the freezer, and we'll wait a while, wait a few minutes, and see what happens.
Talked about all these different ways to melt ice. I know you guys have products that prevent ice from forming. How does this work?
Right, it doesn't prevent the ice from forming so much, it prevents the snow from sticking to the roadways.
Okay.
So we call that anti-icing. And magnesium chloride brine is a very good choice for that, but you can also use salt brine. They both work. Magnesium chloride it melts ice at a much lower temperature relative to salt brine, so it's going to be much more effective, but they both work. So what I'm doing here, Wes, is I'm applying a thin coat of anti-icer to the bottom of this pan.
So this is what the plows will be shooting out behind them before it starts snowing?
Exactly,
okay.
Exactly. And then I'm going to take one piece of ice and put it on our treated surface, and then I'm going to take another piece of ice and put it on the untreated. And if the magnesium chloride, being the great anti-icer that it is, what we'd expect to see, that when I pull these out of the freezer, this will be stuck to the surface, to the metal pan, and this one will still be unstuck.
All right, we just put those both in the freezer. We're gonna give it a little bit, and we're gonna see how it turns out after the break.
Can't wait to see that in a bit, Wes, but there's a lot more coming up.
Yeah, we focus on our little ones, from toddlers to teens. We get your kids ready for the winter weather.
And let's not forget about the pets. What vets say you need to think of before taking them out in the cold.
Ready for Winter, sponsored by NFM.
On News Today, the moments that inspire, make you smile, and make Kansas City great. Wake up to a new day with KSHB 41 News Today, weekdays 4:30 to 7 a.m.
A voice for everyone is really a responsibility.
You're an advocate for everyone in times of despair, but also in times of success and triumph.
Your voice matters, and we're representing you and the people we put on TV and the stories that we cover.
It's a responsibility to look at every single person.
We're starting those conversations and including you in on them.
We're trying to really be a voice for everyone in every community at every moment.
It's more than a mic. It's a voice for everyone.
Welcome back as we continue to get you ready for winter. I know how hectic things can be in the morning as you're getting around the kids and the family, trying to get out the door. Trust me, look, I have a 1-year-old. This is Gordon. And last winter was our first winter as a newborn. In fact, Gary Lezak came by and met Gordon and gave him some really great snuggles last year. Clearly this year looks a lot different. He's moving a lot, and we've got to prepare him for the cold season even when he's running around. So I spoke to Dr. Tanner Isaacson, physician at Pediatric Associates, and he says multiple thin layers is key. We also need to make sure he stays dry.
Is doing one more layer than the adult is comfortable in. in the house. So if you're comfortable walking around in, pajamas, they might need their pajamas plus their swaddle on.
So this goes for indoors and outdoors. He says, as long as they're dressed warm and appropriately, we're ready to go outside and have a good time. You want to go run some errands with mommy? All right, let's go. Let's go. Let's grab the bag and get in the car. While Gordon and I are about to run some errands, have some of our own fun together, I made sure to remove his winter coat when putting him in the car seat. He's got multiple thin layers on, he's got booties and socks on, but I had to remove this thick winter coat. And Dr. Isaacson explains why.
It's so deceptive because you're only supposed to be able to fit maybe one finger back here between the chest plate and the child. It feels like it's firm, but if you get into a car collision quickly, you can see that the child slides right out of here with ease.
So I'll just drape the thick coat right over his lap and we're good to go up until the destination. We got the young kids figured out, but what about those older kids, Jeff?
Lindsay, you are right. Bundling up the kiddos is very important. But now when they turn 16 and can drive, there are a new set of challenges. When your kids are young and you end up driving them all over the place all week to soccer, volleyball, basketball, and baseball games, don't you wish they could drive themselves? I went through that with my son Skylar. Now he's 16 and has his license and is getting ready to drive himself. I have to be careful what I wish for because now it makes me nervous. The nervousness will increase when he has to drive in ice and snow for the first time. Skylar, we know we're going to have ice and snow, and so we really need to figure out how to drive in it. First thing you want to do is you want to not brake hard at all. You need to brake some. No, you need to brake, and you don't want to take sharp. Oh my goodness. I think we need some professional help. We turn to Steve Parker, also known as Major Miles. He is also a driving instructor with the Bi-State Driving School. He has 5 main points on how to drive on ice and snow.
We usually say, hey, if the weather's bad, just stay home, but sometimes you can't. You got a job you got to get to, have to be somewhere for some reason, and you have to get out and brave the conditions. And the thing is, a lot of people just don't really know what to do on icy roads. I need to brake, if you kind of start to slide or something, and really, if you start to slide on ice, braking is the worst thing to do. Don't want to do that. Okay, Skylar, obviously one of the first things you got to think about when the roads are slippery, you have to brake sooner.
Yeah.
So you don't have to get on the brakes as hard. So when the roads are even wet, but especially if they're potentially icy. And also remember, it's the law. If you have your wipers going, you have to have your headlights on. Even if it's the middle of the day, if there's any kind of precipitation falling, certainly snow or something like that, and you need your wipers, got to have the headlights on too. I think people think of slick road conditions in the wintertime, you think of ice. But don't forget, slush can be pretty slippery too. You hit that slush, it's like hydroplaning on steroids. So when you're going around a corner like this, say you start to turn a corner and all of a sudden the back end starts to come around with you. It's slick and the back end starts to slide. There's what I'm talking about, the braking. Maybe your first thing, oh, the car's sliding, I need to brake. Most of your braking force is on your front wheels. So if the back end starts to slide around on you and you hit the brake, it's going to accelerate that spin. It's going to make it spin faster. So you don't want to step on the brake. You want to let off the accelerator. If the car starts sliding around, keep steering in the direction you want to be going. I think that's easier to visualize and maybe easier to understand than when you stop and think, turn into the skid, wait a minute, which way's that? It's just keep steering in the direction you want to go, and that'll usually straighten the car out.
The 5th and last point Steve makes concerns elevated surfaces. They're the first to freeze, as below freezing air can surround the entire surface as opposed to a surface built on the ground.
Something you want to remember too, Skylar, really be careful of any elevated roadway, bridge, overpass, something like that when it's just starting to, get where it could be icy.
I feel confident Skylar can handle anything a Kansas City winter can throw at him. Snow, freezing rain, sleet, or even rain. But I'm still going to be nervous. Lindsay?
Jeff, it looks like Skylar is ready to go. So from our kiddos to fur babies, we have several on the weather team. This is Rizzo, my dog. Wes has 2 dogs. Gary, of course, has 2 dogs. But what about the smaller, short-haired dogs? I talked to a local vet, and she said coats or sweaters are really important to keep them warm and comfortable. She also said if it's too cold for us, then it's too cold for them. And here's how to measure that.
So if you're outside and it's painful if you don't have gloves and earmuffs on, your time needs to be short. It's a quick outside, go potty, come back in. If it's a little bit warmer, it's up in the 30s, and you're comfortable without gloves and earmuffs, they're probably okay for a longer walk.
It's also important to wipe down your dog's belly, leg, paws, especially after they come inside from a fresh snow or ice event. This is to prevent an upset tummy if they were to lick their paws from unsafe salt.
Because they're going to start to clean and lick themselves, and they can absorb them into their system, and not all ice melt is safe for pets. It can cause some issues.
Speaking of ice melt, Wes, how are those experiments coming along?
Let's see what we have. All right, look at there, that's calcium chloride.
It's like a little slushy.
Yep, it's doing what it's supposed to do.
Is that the most potent one? The strongest melting?
Yeah, that has the lowest melting point. That's minus 25 degrees. Magnesium chloride will melt down to minus 15. See the same effect?
Yeah, the big, still bigger chunks of ice still left on that one as compared to this one. It's a little more slushy.
Right. So we get that heating boost from calcium chloride that we don't get. One point I will make though is that the magnesium chloride, well, before I mention that, let's take a look at this one. That's the rock salt. It didn't do anything, but that's what we'd expect. So when it's cold, the salt trucks have done their job, right? But there's no melt. Well, that explains it. It's just too cold for it to work effectively. In our blend, see, we still get melt.
You got a little bit of water down there at the bottom.
So it's good, not as good as the mag chloride. All right, Wes, why don't we check out the other experiment with the anti-icer using the magnesium chloride brine. Trucks can apply this before a snow event, and that helps the ice from forming that bond with the surface, with the roads. Okay, so this is ice without the anti-icer.
Sticking right to it.
Yep. And that's what it's supposed to do because there's nothing to prevent it. However, when we add the anti-icer,
slide around.
De-icers and anti-icers don't remove ice. They just prevent that bonding to the surface.
Get ready for winter. Sponsored by NFM.
It's a new day, Kansas City. Step off on the right foot. Start your day with a boost. Catch up with friends and savor every moment. The best way to start your new day. KSHB 41 News today. The moments that inspire, make you smile, and make Kansas City great. Wake up to a new day with KSHB 41 News today. Weekdays 4:30 to 7 a.m.
A voice for everyone is really a responsibility.
You're an advocate for everyone in times of despair, but also in times of success and triumph.
Your voice matters, and we're representing you and the people we put on TV and the stories that we cover.
It's a responsibility to look at every single person.
We're starting those conversations and including you in on them.
We're trying to really be a voice for everyone in every community at every moment.
It's more than a mic. It's a voice for everyone.
Hey, Gary.
Gary Lezak.
Hi, Gary.
All right, it's retirement night for Gary Lezak.
Congratulations on your career and your retirement.
I just want to say that I am so incredibly excited for you. Congratulations on an amazing career.
You have inspired, you've informed, you've excited, and you've also helped protect the lives of so many of your viewers.
Listen, man, 30 years in Kansas City. Congratulations on one heck of a career there in KC. And I tell you what, my time with you, it's unforgettable.
Thank you for being just the best mentor, best friend that a guy could have. I mean, I couldn't have gone on to become a chief meteorologist in a couple of other markets without your help and guidance. And to this day, you remain one of my best friends ever.
Thank you so much for all of the advice that you gave me, whether it was life advice or career advice, but also most importantly, thank you for being you, such a genuine and kind person.
Your dedication, your passion to what you do, truly admirable. You're one of the most endearing meteorologists ever to grace the TV sets of those watching at home.
Know that you made a huge impact on my life, and even the short time that we worked together. You are now more than just a coworker, you're a friend.
You know, you make such a great team member, and you're not just a spectacular meteorologist, you're a wonderful friend. I will, of course, treasure that forever. So, happy retirement. No one deserves it more.
So as you get set to embark on your cycle 2 of your own personal LRC, all the best to you. Thank you for all the knowledge you passed down to me, and congrats on your retirement.
And as always, Boomer Sooner.
Oh my, that is quite special. Thank you to my former team members, and there's been a lot of meteorologists that have come through here. And Gerard did that just because he knew it was snowing. I got to record this right,
He had to do that,
right now. Wow, what do you guys think?
It's special. I mean, I worked with a good part of those. I mean, and look at our team. This is something that you have built. You've been the star. You've been the leader of that team, of this team for so long, and we're grateful for it.
I've been working with you for 30 years.
I wouldn't be standing here without you. There is no doubt about it.
Wow.
I wouldn't know how to do anything on air or anything without your help. No doubt about it.
Thank you, Kansas City.
Get ready for winter. Sponsored by NFM.